DJ Gonzalez, and I'll be talking to Joel from meXBT. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting concept, and what's even more surprising to me is that it's working. So did you start that project from scratch, or did you take from work that you've done with meXBT?
No, the project was already being made by a company in Seattle, in the US. So we basically bought the technology from that company and the whole idea from that company. We exchanged some shares with that company, so that person and that company is part of the meXBT team, and
Sure.
we basically, were able to provide with the liquidity that we have in the exchange, the ability to do these transactions on an instant exchange. So that allows people to quote Gabriel. One of the major problems for the remittance market is that it is very expensive if you want to do quantities below the $300 amount. The average of people sending money it's $22 billion from Mexico, from the US, sorry, to Mexico every year, from basically Mexican workers or Mexican families into Mexican families in Mexico. So it's a huge opportunity.
Oh yeah, and how much of all that the billions is actually all the money that's moved and not some of the money that's pocketed by, I mean, I don't want to say pocketed, but definitely not all of it reached in the remittance market. The fees.
I think the average is somewhere between 15 to 20% that the remittance providers are basically taking for about 10%. So we were making, he was making by, basically providing Bitcoins from the US market to the Mexican market for interesting solution. And actually one of the things that we are trying to solve is the below $250 market, which I think is huge. People needs to, sending $250 for a worker that making, I don't know, maybe a couple of $1,000 in the US to send money to their families, it's a lot. So if you want to send, like 500 pesos, which is less than $50, to your mother with, so she can be able to buy a medicine it's not possible today.
Wow, so you answered awesome. So you're telling me that you are competitive.
50%.
And so you mentioned that the company that you bought the programming for, or that you bought all the software for this project, the SendBitcoins. You said they're from Seattle. They're stationed in Seattle.
Yeah, they're way based out of Seattle. They basically bought this company, and we were able to buy the technology.
What is the possibility of actually doing the same service in the U.S.? Is that anything tenable, or the regulatory issues that wouldn't be possible to do the same, have the same concept apply in the U.S. to where we can have dollars coming out of the bank ATMs in the U.S.?
I think it's about regulation. One of the things that we're trying to do is that if you're sending Bitcoin, we're also kind of trying to work around how not to have a money sending license in the U.S. But the other thing we're doing is we're offering this also to establish business in the U.S. with a money sending license. So basically, this option is going to be just another channel, right? As you have maybe the current channels that you have in the U.S. So one of the things that we're trying to work out is work with companies. They can provide, we can send the money back. That's no problem. We actually did also a integration with Coinbase. So if you have an account with Coinbase, you can do the same thing, sending money to Mexico using Coinbase. Of course, Coinbase already has a license, so we are the provider of liquidity in Mexico for Coinbase.
That's great. So are you making more connections as time goes on? Have you made any in the world?
Yes, the other option and the other corridor of service that we saw is Mexico is part of the Trans-Pacific corridor. So there is a lot of business from Mexican small businesses by basically acquiring products from China. So if there is a company in Mexico that wants to import uh, basically products from China, now that they can pay with Mexican pesos into yuan in China, using BTC China as a provider in the China market.
That's great. Hey, by the way, is that your phone ringing?
Yeah, actually, you know what happened is that it went into my once I don't answer, it goes into my into my fax. So uh,
Uh,
so now is the fax answering, but don't worry.
that's okay. Okay, good. Um, no, so let's see. Regulations. How well is that faring in Mexico? What's the Mexican government?
Still very low. They basically provided a warning a year ago in April of 2014. Basically, the Central Bank of Mexico provided a communication to the general public saying that Bitcoin is not considered a currency in Mexico. So they, as Central Bank in Mexico, don't have to deal with it. The tax authorities. So everybody doing business as a person or as a have to pay taxes in Mexico, and that's it. So there is no regulation. All it is AML.
Okay.
We integrated with our technology, basically the same technology that most professional exchanges are using, which is the identity mine and Jumio. So all the accounts that we basically set up in our exchange are basically going through a AML and KYC process, and we check them with black databases, so we are sure that it's not used for illegal purposes.
Great. So if the government were, let's say the day of tomorrow, if the waters were to change and things get rough on the regulatory front, how accessible is the Mexican government when it comes to these kind of issues?
I think the government is trying to be a little bit loose. So, some investment is created on the Bitcoin space. Um, there is this efforts in Mexico in general to create startups based on technology. So I have that on the positive side. Uh, a lot of the funds and angels that are investing on the Bitcoin space are talking more about the fancy blockchain, I would say, and the reality is that you cannot invest in the blockchain if you have not invested in the Bitcoin space. So
That's right. You got to tell them that. Yeah, you should repeat that one fact again in case anyone misses that.
yes, so I think I think it's good because we're going to get some runway. Um, we are talking to government officials. In fact, in the last trip that we did to Asia, we basically talked to the government officials in Hong Kong and Singapore that are promoting Mexico, to Asia, and they're very interested in the options of payment options, from small and medium businesses, Mexican small and medium business into China. So I think it's going to be an option. I think in the future, when hopefully we have more volume, if we have more volume, probably we will have more profits, and if we have more profits, we will have probably money to pay more lawyers. So we'll be good when the time comes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that you have some breathing room to work with. So, I mean, you brought up volume. Have you been surprised lately, or since you started, have you been surprised with the amount of volume that you've got? You don't have to give any specific numbers, but are you getting volume that you've been?
The volume is still, small if you consider the size of the market. We're
Sure.
120 million people uh, we have been able to keep a 30 to 35% growth every month.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. We came from a small base, but I think keeping this growth, we're basically able to basically double our size every 3 to 4 months, and I think that's good. And that's good for the investors, and also that's and I think there's going to be some consolidation in the future. So with the consolidation, coming from the external markets, I think the large exchanges in other parts of the world will be looking into smaller portion of the world. So I think, by creating a network of exchanges and basically in the more important markets such as the US and the China mainland, having this relationship with the largest exchanges, we're basically creating an interesting network that is going to have some value in the future.
That's very exciting. So you're bringing up other countries around the world. Would you say that given the nature of Bitcoin and the digital nature of Bitcoin, that it has been easy, that it's just
Years with the electronic money, there is not a huge number of users. There's still 60% of the market that is not using electronic money, right? That is not using neither bank accounts or debit accounts or credit accounts. Because penetration, we're also change risk.
I guess economy.
Um, I think one of the things that we need to work basically probably in BTC China as 60% of that's the size of the market in Mexico of consumer not using service banking or financial services accounts. So the market is huge, right? It's people not bankerized. I mean, it's very different, like in the US, you go to a Starbucks and, you see 80% of people using credit cards or debit cards. In Mexico, is the other way around. You see 85% of people using cash.
Mexican government environment, the regulatory environment like in Mexico.
It's a year ago in April of 2014. Basically, the Central Bank of Mexico provided a communication to the general public saying that Bitcoin is not considered a currency in Mexico. So they, as central bank, connected to data plans, to data services. So that's a challenge. But we're looking into solutions to use SMS connected to our platform, so people can send money, inside the country and pay things using. I think it's a much better approach than the for the exchange. Is we are basically following the best practices of KYC and AI of technology, the sector.
Right.
We change. So I think it's more about having people to try it and use it and make it work, and I think that's a huge opportunity for the Mexican market. Use their mobile devices as a wallet.
Agreed. So we mentioned the wallet. Would the person truly on the other end? Do they prepare the private key?
One of the things that people is used now in Mexico is to have balances in their phones, because 75% of those phones contracts are basically prepaid phones.
Right.
So they are used to deposit money to maintain balance, right? Right now it's about minutes in phones. If we can switch a little bit and say, well, instead of minutes or plus minutes of your phone, you also can have money to pay, for a Coke in the supermarket. And I think that's I mean, it's a transition, but I think it's possible to do it.
Great. Fantastic. So
I think
Well, I
there's
want to ask you, are there any particular Bitcoin projects that you're keeping an eye on that you're most excited about? It could be, doesn't have to be just in Mexico. It can be anywhere in the world.
yeah, one of the things that we are trying to look into is there is a solution of using basically the chip from the telephone, the regular
Hmm.
telephone chip as a wallet, and I think that's one of the things that we will try to test soon in the market. You know,
Yeah,
maybe we have.
I have seen some. I forgot whose it was, but there is a company that's really tapping into that technology, and it seems very exciting. So yeah, I'm sure we're talking about the same product here, or the same group.
I think that is really empowering for using your phone as a wallet. Right now, I think there are no more than probably five, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 wallets of Bitcoin in Mexico. Maybe less than 2,000, maybe a little bit more than 5,000. And there are 110 million telephones, right? So if we take a chunk of those telephones and provide with a real wallet solution, I think that would be great, and being able to share your money with some other people in the country would be probably the killer app.
Do you think that Bitcoin is ready for the people of Mexico and I guess the world at large? Do you feel like uh, we have we have enough of the innovations in security and protection, and you feel like the education is you feel it's possible to educate the masses on how to have Bitcoin, keep them safe, not send it to the wrong address or something like that. Just the bare necessities to get the Bitcoin ball rolling. Yeah.
I think in Bitcoin more as a technology, and if we think Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is a really secure technology. We need to talk less about Bitcoin and more about transferring, value between people. If we use Bitcoin, that's great, and if we can make Bitcoin a reliable solution for them, they want to send pesos. They are not thinking necessarily of Bitcoin. If we as Bitcoin providers make our technologies, all the providers of technology of Bitcoin, from the exchanges to the wallets and all the other options, something that the people can, use as regular money, as regular cash, I think we will be providing the solution that they need.
Great, thank you, Joel. So actually, the other group has a few questions. Let's see if they can. Let's see if they'll come on and ask them for you. Thank you very much for all the responses. They've been fantastic.
Thank you.
Hello, Joel. Micah from Houston. That it has been easy, this type of currency. Let's.
In the Tec de Monterrey here in Mexico City, and I was amazed of the kind of innovation that you can get from 100 people trying to build things on top of your platform. So we had from remittance solutions all the way to very sophisticated trade tools. So I think it can be any type of solution. I would like to see more solutions that are basically filling up the spaces that of the needs of the Mexican market. And I think payment solutions, dispersing money solutions, I think that's probably the solutions that we want to see. In Mexico there are many different programs, for example, from the government that provide money to certain people in need. Either if it's people in the third age, or if it's people with small resources. I think those solutions today take money out of the people that receive the money, and if we can use Bitcoin to reduce that amount of money to make sure that the people get the money in the right way, and we can maybe control some of that flow of money, I think that would be great solutions for our market.
Thanks. Hello, this is Adam in Houston. Quick question. From the day that you guys launched and all the way until now, what type of trends have you seen with user adoption and the limiting ends of buy and sell orders, making it so that your market is weighted heavily on one end compared to the other? What is your solution to solving that problem, and where do you see how do you see that change over time?
Sorry, you cut off a little bit, but if I understand it, the question is.
Right. So when you launch an exchange, you have people that are speculating on each side, whether it be buying or selling. So what type of trends have you seen since launch, and how have you seen those trends change?
Sorry, the connection was really bad, but I think from the moment we launched, most of the people was basically speculators, right? I would say probably 80% of those.
Getting into the Bitcoin economy.
I think one of the things that we need to work very hard is to make sure that we are able to in the tourism industry, in the import-export markets, basically trying to resolve payments or as an option of payments that basically the traditional banking system is not possible to do, right? We have seen use cases from that are paying basically, if they are sold, the hotels of a room the rooms of a hotel are sold in a different place, and they need to pay, some revenue to the ones that sold the room. They are basically transferring money, small amounts of money to these between these companies. I think there is still a huge amount of trading that is done, but more and more we see the flow of money, by people that is using it as a medium of exchange or as a form of payment.
Okay. Eddie, anything else?
Not from my end. You guys have any questions? Anyone have questions?
Yeah, no, this is really good. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have more conversations like this. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It was great.
Well, thank you very much again for your time, and thanks for dropping.
That is connected. Use SMS, traditional SMS commands connected to our platform, so people can send money, and pay things using. I think it's a much better approach than the M-Pesa, for example, type of because that depends on a specific telco in Africa. Provide a much better solution. It's a matter of trust. It's not a matter of technology. The technology is already there.
Right.